So I absolutely take out my phone and look at it at least 30 times an hour. I can't imagine that it's less than that. So the answer has to be in the hundreds. A day, we're saying?
A day.
It's got to be 400 times a day.
The average person, according to this survey, was around 250 times a day.
Yeah, and I know that I'm unfortunately above the average.
Well, you're in strategic comms.
Not in a
fighting.
braggy way. In quite frankly, the opposite.
Barack Obama, not to compare anyone to being the president, has this riff about wearing the same suit every day and one of two ties. And he talks about seeking to avoid decision fatigue, which obviously if you're the president and you are responsible for 1,000 world-altering decisions a day is a very real thing. But I have found really in the past 4 or 5 years in particular that the more of my day-to-day life where I don't have decision-making overhead or like administrative overhead frees me up to accomplish a lot more in a shorter period of time. If I don't have to worry about where I'm, what I'm choosing for lunch, just gives me extra time to focus on something that happens to be more important. And having a set of routines or rituals, I think is helpful in that process. I have a very, my home is very neat. Things go in the same place over and over again. I generally have extras of a lot of home items. So I never have to worry about losing something in my house or needing to go to the store to get more of X, Y, or Z.
So I love this concept of decision fatigue or limiting decision fatigue because I aspire to get there. Maybe that's a good segue. And we're here with Andrew Perlmutter, the CEO of NBA Take-Two Media, which is the new name. Maybe it's not as new anymore. When did it officially get relaunched?
We launched the name NBA Take-Two Media in June of 2025.
Okay, so about 7-8 months.
Yep.
I kind of want to stick on the concept of decision fatigue. You have a lot of decisions to make over the last few years to rebrand what was NBA 2K League into NBA Take-Two Media. Mm-hmm. What were some of the most important decisions that you've had to make over the last few years that resulted in where the brand is today? And can you just tell us a little bit about that process?
The 80-20 rule is a really nice shorthand for the idea that in almost any business, there are 3 or 4 key initiatives, areas of the business, levers that the success of the venture really depends on. And you want to pour as much of your time, energy, capability into getting those 3 or 4 things right, rather than trying to check the box on all of the elements of the business that you might otherwise spend time on. I think overachievers, type A people, we generally want to do everything. I ask people the question, do they finish every book that they start to read? It is an overachiever's instinct to complete every book or to finish every movie, even if they are halfway through and they don't like it. that instinct can cause you to spread your efforts too thinly when the core 3 or 4 questions are where the sort of time and energy needed to be focused. When I took over the business, the 2K League had been a hardcore esports league where the very best gamers at 2K competed to determine who the champions would be. And the very first question was, is the audience and opportunity for that as a product the biggest and most exciting audience, given that we were 7 years down the line from when the league was started? And the answer to that question was no. We, in late 2023, when I joined, an easy observation for me was that both basketball and gaming are at the center of much broader pop cultural interests for people of all generations, and tapping into the opportunity of basketball and 2K gaming as a sort of a cultural center that touches everything from passion points like music and fashion and celebrity culture to facets of our emotional lives, like family life, friendships, travel. Like, that was the much bigger opportunity to tap into. And so there were sort of 3 or 4 key questions that guided the sort of transition of the business from one that was very much a hardcore esport to what we are now, which is a platform, an entertainment property that sees basketball and NBA 2K the game as a conduit for a much broader set of entertainment properties that focus on competition and basketball culture as a canvas for really engaging programming that puts NBA players and celebs in moments that are like authentic and universal.
Is it fair to define it as a conduit for culture at large?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I come from the 90s and early 2000s, and I like to say that we're trying to create the MTV for basketball.
Right.
Because in 2000, MTV really was the most important brand in youth culture. And it wasn't just about music. It had the movie awards and House of Style and Rock and Jock Sports and MTV Cribs. And that's because music culture was youth culture. And pop stars were influential far beyond music. And so they could span multiple categories of culture. Sports today, and basketball in particular, I think are doorways to the rest of our lives. And the idea is to use it and athletes as the base of a much sort of broader sort of cultural opportunity.
I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about how do you reconcile the preferences of trying to integrate youth culture and what is clearly a new media landscape with an organization and with some older audiences who may question a lot of what's happening on the ground?
Not to sound like a company man,
Please,
but
sound however you want.
The NBA is hands down the best pro sports league at social media. There are some 250 million followers of NBA social media accounts. I think the NBA has also done a really great job of bringing creators into the fold. They have several different programs where creators show up at a variety of different NBA events and locations and use the NBA as a canvas for fun creator programming. So I do think the NBA has done, and perhaps more than any other element, the NBA has both supported and facilitated the development of their players into really powerful social media influencer-like celebrities. So, and I think the NBA was the first league to open up highlights to social media usage. So I think the NBA has got a lot of things right over the years. Clearly, NBA 2K and gaming culture and the youth culture around social media is an evolving landscape and is a new, ever-changing green field for a league like the NBA. And the NBA's support for this business, I think, is another good example of the league seeing this space as a really big opportunity and utilizing this joint venture as a way to build things that complement the NBA's core product offerings without forcing the NBA to have to choose,
Sure.
to be one thing or another.
What is the operation for that look like? Do you have like a whole team of content people going out to LA? Like how complex is that?
The kind of video programming that works on social in particular now is always evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And as a business oriented around creating really entertaining video programming on social, you need both to understand, learn the lessons from the accounts or creators that produce the most engaging material, and you have to figure out how to do it in an economically effective way. So our creative organization is a team of sort of creative producers and idea generators, and then a production operation that supports those producers. Sometimes the producers are on-air talent. Sometimes the producers are videoing themselves. But the idea is to figure out how to make the highest quality material for an efficient sort of production cost. The internet gives you the opportunity to experiment over and over and over again, get the data on what's working, learn from that, and come up with a new experiment. And when you find a franchise that really works, obviously you can then put time, energy, resource into that programming. So we try to pilot as much programming as possible for as efficiently as possible, figure out a format that works, and then put more resources into it. So when we go to LA, we'll have some proper production equipment, but it's a lot of camera phones. It's a lot of individuals who can write, shoot, and be on camera themselves.
Very interesting. When you're not consuming sports media, tech-related media, what does the Andrew Perlmutter media diet look like? What's going on your screen when you open it up in the morning? What kinds of newsletters or podcasts or Reddit feeds do you read? What goes on your phone?
I think of myself as a media omnivore. I have a really wide range of interests, and I always loved people who are able to think adjacently, and by which I mean people are able to take a learning from one industry and apply it to a completely different field of knowledge. A business school professor of mine was an expert at sort of this, and he worked with a business called, I want to say it was called Incentive. I'm probably butchering the name, but basically they would run these challenges where some large pharma business has a drug manufacturing challenge, and anyone could submit a solution for pay. And someone who's an aerospace engineer, like, sees the problem from an aerospace perspective, and that actually led to a solution. So I'm on the board of a nonprofit theater company in New York. I really enjoy live theater. I think you get an intimacy and an immediacy of experience in theater that you just don't get in any other form. But I also really love big blockbuster films. I think F1 this past year made me feel like I was in the car. The way it was shot was brilliant, and even though the story is has been told many times, like, you felt deeply committed to Brad Pitt's character. In the mornings, I generally scan the news. I try to get a bit of industry news, but I will look. I'll look at the national news. There's some blogs that I really like. I like Ben Thompson for tech. I like Media Gazer and Tech Meme for aggregating media and tech news. I'll scan New York Times, Drudge to get a feel for all of the politics. I try to stay up on interesting emerging creators or series on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. You have to do work to do that because the algorithms are so well oriented towards what engages you that I was recently put on to a fun scripted series on Instagram called Brooklyn Coffee Shop. Okay. And this one, it's fun. It sort of pokes fun at Brooklyn hipster way of life. And the show episodes like 1 to 2 minutes, and they regularly do 1 million views. I had never heard of this show until a friend recommended it for me. So I do work to find emergent programming, but I love classic books. Like, I'm reading. I don't know if this makes me a nerd. I'm reading Henry James' Portrait of a Lady right now. I really like novels about high society. So I won't consume content because I think I ought to consume it, but I generally have a pretty wide span of media that I'm interested in. I think it's hard to run a creative organization if you don't love creative products as a starting point.
Well, and you and I have also talked before. I know that you have always made an effort to understand all vantage points and where everyone's coming from an issue. I remember you and I talking at lunch last year, just around when you're in an industry where you're responsible for catering to a whole wide range of stakeholders and consumers and that'll have different opinions and different vantage points of lots of things. It's your responsibility to get that full spectrum. It's funny you mentioned Ben Thompson. I tried to read Stratechery. I do read Stratechery. I'm gonna admit what I think few other people don't admit, which is that I don't understand a lot of what's written in that column every day. I think everyone else is lying to themselves about what they see in that newsletter, because I read it from the first word to the last word because I'm told that I have to read it. And I don't understand what's being written. Do you? There's a lot that goes on in that newsletter that I feel like people are making up that they understand.
I think, first of all, we're both subscribers, so I would say we're both pro Ben Thompson.
Absolutely.
He covers a really wide range of technology topics. So when he's writing about TMSC's latest earnings and the challenges of improving wafer technology from 5 nanometer to 3 nanometer, he does wind up getting pretty deep in the weeds of like those technological processes. So where I agree with you is there are definitely topics where if you don't have a working industry knowledge of that sector, it's probably harder for you to dive into. But he also he came to prominence by developing this sort of aggregation theory of how large scale, like dominant monopolistic tech businesses but sort of became that way. And it was a really thoughtful inversion of how supply and demand like works, like having like controlling distribution and like owning the end consumer because you have a product that they love created a zero marginal cost situation for like getting new users on board, which gave you like sort of more leverage over suppliers. I mean, this is what Google's business is. And yes. I think a lot of that writing is, I don't think it's for middle schoolers, but I do think it is relatively straightforward to understand. And then I think he's evolved his product where he's regularly interviewing CEOs and those conversations.
I actually haven't listened to those. Are those good?
I mostly read Ben Thompson, so I haven't listened to the interviews on the pod. I actually recommend you listening to his podcast because he's pretty colloquial and easy to listen to, even if the jargon on text can sometimes be a bit much.
I sometimes go through that newsletter and I know how many people tell me that they read Ben Thompson, and I consider myself like a half-educated human being, and I'm reading through. I'm like, there's no way that people get at the stuff that he's writing about.
Have you tried using ChatGPT or Gemini to summarize Ben Thompson for you?
I haven't, but I should. I should. I think that would be a good.
I'd be interested to know whether those technologies translate him into language that is sort of easier for you to grasp. But also, I mean, I do think one of the challenges is some of his longer posts are long, and you
right.
You get like sometimes when you're reading a really long article, you reach that psychological moment where you've been reading for a long time and you're only 30% of the way through, yes. And you think to yourself, am I really going to try and do the next 70%?
I mean, I used to be an ardent, tried and true subscriber to Politico Playbook, and it got to a point where I was reading everybody's birthdays every day, and I was like, I can't go down to the birthdays anymore. Like, I don't care. These newsletters. We do a daily newsletter that we try and make very short, very compact, so that it's easy for people to read. But you are right. A lot of the times I just get bored and stop.
Steve, you are a victim of your times. Our attention spans are narrowing down to like 10 seconds at most. I get and spend time with Michael Wolf and the Activate consulting team, really, really good consulting shop. And they produce an annual report. And in that report, I don't know how many people they surveyed or watched, but they tracked the number of times the average person checks his or her phone per day.
Sounds scary.
And just sort of grab it and look. Guess the number of times. Average adult.
All right, I'm gonna take 8 seconds to think about this. So I absolutely take out my phone and look at it at least 30 times an hour. I can't imagine that it's less than that. So the answer has to be in the hundreds a day. We're saying
A day.
it's got to be 400 times a day.
The average person, according to this survey, was around 250 times a day.
And I know that I'm unfortunately above the average.
Well, you're in strategic comms.
Not
You've
in,
got,
a,
you're
not in a
fighting.
braggy way, in quite frankly the opposite. But yeah, 200. I believe it.
So our attention spans have just been like so narrowed. There was an article. I forget if it was the Hollywood Reporter or Variety, where Matt Damon was being interviewed, and
I saw this.
And he says that for the movie that
Yes.
he did for Netflix called The Rip, I think, and I guess, and this makes sense, the team was instructed to reiterate the main plot points like multiple times,
Right.
because according to Damon, Netflix's data suggests that people are doing multiple things while they're watching anything on Netflix. So if you're on your phone or on your laptop while you're also watching the movie, your attention is not focused enough to remember the plot if it is not, stated multiple times, and it changes the form.
Absolutely.
It like changes what movie making or TV show making is. Before the advent of sound in movies, the framing of people on the screen did a lot of work, and how they moved did a lot of work for how the audience understood the story. And then there would be intertitles with text. Once sound became available and you could actually speak your lines, it completely transformed the form of how to tell a story in movies. And sadly, if you're sitting at home on your couch and the average person has 3 different screens going at once, that again changes the form that is going to sort of drive the most engagement.
In our house, we call our, what is I think traditionally a family room or a TV room, we call it the content room. And the content room has a small screen, a medium screen, and a big screen. And we need to negotiate, okay, are we just going to watch the big screen without any other screens? Which feels like an accomplishment. And of course now we've even gone a step, because I need subtitles now to be able to follow anything, which is highly depressing. But it is genuinely hard to sit down on a couch, watch one screen, for me anyway, one screen, try and follow the plot, and understand what's going on over the course of a 90-minute movie, let alone a 45-minute episode. It's really challenging.
Though, like, changing consumer behavior, changing technology is always what the driver of new opportunities. I think taking it back to what we're doing, creators are the entities who have had the most success on social media over the past several years. And one of the reasons is because they make users feel like the user can participate in the creation of the brand or the IP. If you're a makeup influencer, we're watching you put on makeup, and we can mimic it, or we can actually buy the makeup that you're using, and it feels like you are like a friend. You're in our lives. So like we, as an organization, try to take those lessons to build a participatory sort of parasocial universe. Like in the 2K League, we have an open competition platform where any 2K user can affiliate with his or her favorite team, sign up for this platform, and based on how much they play and social media challenges they participate in, they can rise the ladder and they have a shot at representing their NBA team in official competition and even playing in programming with NBA players and creators. So our fans, our users feel like and actually get to participate in the creation of the IP. The best streamers, the same principle applies. That chat is running while the streamer is doing something, and the streamer says, you know, I'm going to order dinner. Like, what should I order from DoorDash? And the chat tells the streamer, oh, you should order a taco tonight. Right. And he orders a taco, and the users feel like they are like rewarded. Legacy media generally is still in the early innings of figuring out how to bring it to life. And every now and again, you see it happen organically, like when all of the kids dressed up in black suits for the Minions movie, so that they felt like they were participating in the movie itself.
That's really interesting. And there's a lot of different versions of that. In thinking about some of the creators that you've been working with around Take-Two, knowing what you're working on this weekend around the All-Star game, what are some of the other big initiatives that you're looking forward to this year with Take-Two?
We launched our programming in November, right. So we are a little more than 3 months new. So overall, like, we get to spend this year putting our franchises and our formats to the test online, learning what people love, learning what the talent loves, because we get to put NBA players, athletes, and celebrities in really fun off-court programming, and based on that learning, sort of figure out how to iterate on the franchises. So we've got a format that we're rolling out right now called 2K League Showdown, which is a fight night-like program with 3 matchups that every one culminates in NBA players facing off against each other, and there are sort of stakes involved. Our next one features 2 great rookies, Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen, both on the Pelicans, facing off against each other. Beyond bragging rights, the loser of that match will have some obligations to fulfill. So that's a great franchise for us, and we get to, pilot several episodes of it to learn what works. We also, thinking of basketball as a canvas for broader culture, we have, call it a Bourdain-style travel show, except Joakim Noah, who's a great former NBA player, a center, is our Bourdain. And Joakim has an international background, is really curious, and he learns about different cultures around the world through the lens of basketball. So we just published an episode where he visits Serbia, which is a really beautiful bit of content. He learns about inat, which is a Serbian concept for their like resilience and defiance and fight. And so we get to pilot more programs in that vein, and building what should become a community where all of this large swaths of population, hundreds of millions of people who love basketball adjacent culture, have an opportunity to attach themselves to basketball, not just as the sport on the court, but as like the basis of broader culture, as a gaming universe as well.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming, Andrew. I appreciate the conversation. Appreciate you telling us a little bit more about NBA Take-Two Media, and excited to watch more of the content.
Thanks for having me. Our content is 20 minutes or less, so you don't need to check your phone while watching it.
Only a few times. Only a few times. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Steve.